Episode 20 of the Photime Podcast. Special guest this time, Michael Colton, Kilo Echo 7 Hotel India Alpha. Maybe you know him as the portable SDR guy. Got a great call coming up.
AmateurRadio15.com presents Photime, the other ham radio podcast, sponsored by Main Trading Company. Find them online at mtcradio.com. Now, here's your host, Cale Nelson, K4CDN.
It is episode number 20 of the Photime Podcast. Appreciate you tagging along with us. It's Photime.com, AmateurRadio15.com. And, we may be having a little bit of identity crisis here, but we still are the other ham radio podcast, and we appreciate you tagging along with us. We also appreciate our show sponsor who helps make this program possible, and they are Main Trading Company from Paris, Texas. Now, you don't have to just live in Texas to shop with them, guys. They ship internationally, so that means if you live in the U.S., they'll ship it to you too, right? They've got a special deal going right now, the new Oshin KG8D, which is the Oshin handy-talkie with the big digital display on it that does crossband repeat. They've got a deal on their website right now. All kind of stuff packaged with that for $159. Really, really sweet deal on that very nice crossbanding HT, which is very tempting, but what am I going to do with another handy-talkie, right? Anyway, you may need one, so go check them out at mtcradio.com. Tell them Cale from the other Ham Radio Podcast sent you, and let them know that you appreciate them helping keep us going here on Photime. All right, so this time we've got a special call. It's kind of a surprise call. We've been working back and forth with Michael Colton, Kilo Echo 7 Hotel India Alpha, to get him on the program, and he just recently finished up his Kickstarter for his portable SDR, and it just so happens it worked out. The timing was great for both of us. We were able to catch up this week, and I'm going to play the call for you right now. Check it out. Michael, thank you for joining us on the Other Ham Radio Podcast. We really appreciate you being here, and I know that you're totally busy right now. A lot of things going on. You just came off winning the lottery. Well, not really the lottery, but your Kickstarter was funded, and I want to talk about that in a moment. But first, I want to get to know Michael Colton as an amateur radio operator, and we try to do that with our guest. And go ahead, and tell us a little bit about your amateur radio life.
Okay. Well, I got into the hobby pretty early. I think I was about 12 years old. There was a friend of mine that was a scout, and he had a pretty sweet little 2-meter radio that he took on a camping trip, and I was just mystified by it, so I went ahead and got my license. I was a little too young to really afford much gear back then, so it wasn't until I got older that I really got into the hobby. These days, the part of ham radio that really is exciting to me is developing hardware, learning how the circuits work, trying to, it's one thing to buy a radio, press a button, and it sends out a signal, and it's going to work, but it's another to plug transistors into a breadboard and try to see if you can make these components send your voice out over the air. It's really really exciting to me.
So you're not an appliance operator?
Well, I am to some extent, but where I really have fun, what really keeps me interested is actually making the hardware.
I got you. Now, your call is Kilo Echo 7 Hotel India Alpha. Is that your
Yes, that's right.
Is that your original call that you got when you were 12?
No, I let it lapse. My old one was KE7HIA, which I think I liked better, honestly.
EKZ. Eeks. I'll try that tomorrow in phonics class. We'll see how it goes over with the kids.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, so you're back in the hobby, and you like building stuff. Tell us about some of the stuff you like to build.
Well, I guess we'll be talking about the portable SDR a lot, but my background in building things came more from the digital side. I bought these. Radio Shack used to sell them. They're still available online from Parallax. They're little microcontroller development kits, and basically you write some code, you load it onto a chip, and then the chip does what you told it to do. And so I've done a lot of projects with that sort of digital thing, blinking lights, or, for example, right now in my basement, I have a little water level sensor hooked to a circuit I designed, and if the water gets too high, it turns on a pump and kind of automates that for me. For years and years, I honestly had no clear idea why radio worked, but digital made sense to me. And as I continued to play with it, I started to kind of, maybe experiment a little more, and things started to kind of click and fit into place. And so I started actually building radio circuits and built a few simple receivers and built, some more advanced ones. Like I bought a little, what's called a DDS. That's a direct digital synthesis chip. It's a frequency generator. Mm-hmm. Found one on eBay for like $5 and used that to build a slightly cooler receiver. And just kind of lots of little projects like that.
So you're a maker by nature.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. What do you work in the electronics field?
I do, and it's kind of from making that happened. If you look back on Kickstarter, you can see that this is actually the second Kickstarter I've done. The first one was I started a drone business with a friend of mine. So we did aerial photography with drones, and it didn't. That Kickstarter wasn't successful, and ultimately I kind of got out of the business. But making the helicopters was really fun, and I got built myself a 3D printer to help with that, and I've just been always into making things ever since I was little.
I've got some internet friends who have been. They just constantly talk about their drones and put all these cool pictures up, and then they show these pictures of their injuries they get when they just lose control, And then today, a friend of mine, a local amateur, texted me a video, and we just recently had like a winter storm come through here, which virtually paralyzed the entire state of South Carolina, and it was nothing. But anyway, so he sends this video message, and I open it up, and it's a drone flying over, and I said, that's his house. I said, did you film this? Oh yeah, I got a drone. I'm getting it from every side. And I come on with Michael Colton tonight, and Michael is formerly a drone. So I'm doing my best to stay away. I am. I'm pretty heavily invested into garden model railroading, and my kids really dig it. And although my second son will be getting a little quadcopter for his birthday coming up in March. He's not listening, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I'm trying to fight the feeling, if you may remember that song from years gone by. Okay, so we're going to talk about why we have you on the program, and that is the Kickstarter that was funded, and this is recorded on the 17th of February, so it was just a few days ago that you got funded. What did we fund you for? Tell us about your project.
Well, it's called the Portable SDR. So, I mean, you said that this is your program's aimed a little bit at newer ham operators, so probably explaining what an SDR makes sense too.
We'd love to hear it.
So what an SDR stands for Software Defined Radio. So I guess the full name of my project is the Portable Software Defined Radio. The deal with SDR is it takes a lot of what used to require a lot of dedicated circuitry and converts it into digital and does it inside of a processor. So an example would be like, most radios, most standard radios, if it can receive FM, it's because it has an FM demodulation circuit, and if it can receive AM, it has a separate circuit for that, and so on. What an SDR will do is it will just grab the raw information out of the air, convert it into something that a microcontroller can process, and the microcontroller will run its code, and that code takes the place of what used to be dedicated hardware. So the reason you'd want to do that is your radio can expand and it can gain new abilities. If 10 years from now someone creates some new kind of way to send voice with just a software upgrade, an SDR can now use that. You get some other cool features as well. Anyway, so so I was really into SDR radios. They just fascinate me. I love that it takes this cutting edge digital technology and combines it with radio to make something that's really flexible and powerful. But everything that exists on the market so far is, SDR wise, is they're boxes that sit on your desk and they hook into your desktop PC and they can do amazing things. But I'm a backpacker. That's one of my hobbies, and I wanted to be able to take one of these with me. So I kind of had it as a pet project, and finally got to the point where I'm like, I think I can build this thing. I've done enough work on it. I finally gained enough experience where I think I can make this thing pocket-sized. And so I went for it, and people liked it. So
here we are on the other side of a winning Kickstarter. Now, how long was your project in development from the moment that you hatched the idea in your mind till you came to a couple of your friends and said, do you think someone would be interested in this?
Well, I don't know that the decision happened in quite that way. I had read about there's a radio called the SDR 1000, and the ham that developed it, his name escapes me. But he wrote some really cool articles that he published in QST. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is like 2002 or 2004 or something like that. And that's what got me interested in SDR, but they were too expensive. And so immediately I had the idea that maybe I could use the schematics that he's published, and I could build my own, part by part from the ground up. Wow. So I started researching it and kind of learning about his design, trying to figure out why it worked and what each part did. And so I've been looking at that design for years, and yeah, like 4 or 5 years. But it wasn't until more recently where I thought maybe a microcontroller could take over some of the tasks that he was using a desktop computer for. I think when I finally started really working on it as a standalone unit was maybe 2 years ago. And then I don't know if you know about the Hackaday prize competition, but that gave me a real push to kind of put something together that was usable.
Well, yeah, that's where I first saw your project was on the Hackaday, and it was at the bequest of some of my internet buddies, for lack of a better term. They kept screaming about this project, this portable SDR. This guy was building their ultimate dream, and really, and I'm talking about Doug. But anyway, these guys were just crazy about this idea. And like I said, I visited a time or two, and they'd post a link, and I'd go check it out. It's extremely interesting to me. I mean, I'm just getting into SDR with a little TV dongle. I'm really killing it over here. But yeah, like you, I mean, it's amazing what. Well, I mean, just think about it. Our Casio G-Shock watch has more computing power than they sent the guys to the moon with or whatever. It's astonishing. And I'm an old Radio Shack throwback nerd from the late 80s, early 90s, working through high school there. And never once did I imagine that we would be where we were at 25 years from then. And I guess that's just how it goes as you age. But the technology is phenomenal. And I want to go back real quick to what you said about how you like the premise of SDR, because you can add to it. You don't have to, you can build on the inside. You don't have to stack onto it necessarily. And right. I'm reminded of like the Kenwood or the Argonaut that Tentec used to make, where you could change frequencies if you changed the cartridge. Almost like changing a tape to put in a different frequency. And I
remember that one.
Yeah, the great thing about the SDRs is that you just change the programming, and there you go. So tell us a little bit about the project itself, coming from the Hackaday push into the Kickstarter, and how that went down with the continuing development of the product.
Okay. Well, I think I had the design for the. Well, first let me say the PSDR that you see in the Kickstarter is the second major version. So I call it the PSDR2. The PSDR-1 was just about ready when the Hackaday Prize was announced, which was probably about a year ago. And, they explained the rules and stuff, and I thought, hey, my little project might work for that. So that gave me a little bit of a push to develop it up, and kick off a PCB, get that produced, and assemble it and get something going. And then the Hackaday Prize had several elimination rounds. It started with about 800 entries, and they narrowed it all the way down to 50. And I made it into that 50, and I'm like, wow, I have a chance. I mean, just getting into the 50 meant I was guaranteed some kind of prize.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, I gotta go for broke and do whatever I can to get into the top 5, which would have been the next elimination round. So the portable SDR-1, well, there's a lot of circuits that I had never built before, or that were really hard to prototype because they were so small. And so the PSDR-1 was a very, very incomplete radio. It had the frequency generation section and the microcontroller, and like not a lot else. So there was a lot it couldn't do. You couldn't take it anywhere. It pretty much still had to be tethered to a desk to work properly. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to see if I can, I think I had 2 months between, getting into the top 50 before they were going to select the top 5. I'm like, all right, I'm going to see if I can knock this out. And I put all the things I thought I could squeeze in the time available into the design, and I took days off work, and we were having family parties. Like for Thanksgiving, I was laying out the circuit board, and then I took a break to go eat turkey, and then I went back into the closet and went back to laying out the circuit board again. But I barely made it.
Are you married, Michael?
I am.
Okay. Wow. Still married.
Oh. Yeah. She, my wife has been very, very patient with me.
Behind every good man stands a better woman.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
Go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
No problem. Okay. So here I am. I get the PCB designed. I send it to a board manufacturer in China, get it back. I've got like 3 days to assemble the entire board, write some firmware, shoot some videos, and see if I make it into the top 5. Well, against all odds, I did. And, I had no expectation that I would get that far, but I was pushing myself pretty hard. And anyway, so long story short, I keep doing all I can. I end up getting 3rd place, which was pretty amazing. And at this point, people have been commenting all over the place, like, when can I get one? Are you going to be selling this? And I'm like, I guess I have to. So I figure I'll give Kickstarter another try. I'll see if there's enough demand, and if it didn't fund, it meant that not enough people wanted it, and that's cool too. But yeah, this is a thing that at least a pretty good number of people are excited about. So I've been able to kind of ride that energy. It's been really nice.
You were a few days out from the completion of the Kickstarter, and there were a couple of different amateur radio blogs that were coming on and asking for support, show your support for Michael and his project, and keep it alive and whatnot. And I even decided to catch the wave, and I thought it was kind of particularly unfunny on my part, but I was tweeting, "Forget the whales, save the portable SDR," and I would like to think someone found comedic value in that and went over and helped you get your Kickstarter funded. How much money did you raise, Michael?
We raised a little over $66,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. Hey, when we come back from the break, I want to talk to you about the future, where you go with this money, where do you go with this project, this idea that you've created, and you've got everybody stoked about. Guys, we'll be back in just a couple of moments with Michael Colton, Kilo Echo 7 Hotel India Alpha, of portable SDR fame.
Visit mtcradio.com today, a great one-stop mom-and-pop shop for everything ham radio. Radios, antennas, power supplies, wire and cable, books and training materials, microphones, headsets, and accessories. Find popular brands like MFJ, Heil Sound, Jetstream, LDG, Alinco, Comet, Texas Bugcatcher, Radio Waves, and more. mtcradio.com, an authorized Kenwood and ICOM dealer. mtcradio.com.
Before we get back to the call with Michael, I want to give some shout-outs to some iTunes reviewers. Thank you very much. If you go to iTunes and review the program, we genuinely appreciate it. It helps other amateur radios seeking those special terms like ham radio, ham, amateur radio, stuff like that in iTunes. Help them find our show easier, and we appreciate all the 5-star reviews we got up there. Nick Kafar, I hope I didn't mispronounce that. Easy Mac 308, Pixel Photo, I Am the Real Ogre, and Older New Ham all left some really great reviews, and I appreciate it. It only takes just a minute. If you're on iTunes and you want to drop that in there, I really, really would be very indebted to you. Let's get back to the call. Here's Kel and Michael Colton, Kilo Echo 7 Hotel India Alpha from Portable SDR on the Photime Podcast. We're back with Michael Colton, Kilo Echo 7 Hotel India Alpha. You may not know his call, but I bet if you're paying attention to what's going on around you in amateur radio, or you're following me on Twitter, you know that Michael is the proprietor of the brand new Portable SDR who just completed funding on Kickstarter this past week. We're really excited to have Michael on the show, sharing with us about his project, his heart, and his life that he's given this thing over the last couple of years. Michael, when I look at the Portable SDR, it's not really square, it's not circular, it's got a very odd shape. Is there a reason that it has that shape to it?
Yeah, it does have an odd shape, doesn't it? I was doodling all over, every piece of paper that found its way to me about what kind of shape I wanted to give this thing. One of the things I really felt strongly about with the Portable SDR is I wanted it to be a self-contained unit. Like so many people that do portable operating, they'll have like a Yaesu FT817, which I have one of those, and they're awesome. And then they'll have an external battery, and they'll have an external tuner, and they'll have an external mic, and maybe they'll have an external key, and then they'll also have their antenna, which doesn't really sound that portable to me. So I wanted to cram everything in, and so for example, that if you look at the Portable SDR, there's a little thing protruding out of the bottom right that someone referred to as the giblet. So sometimes I call it that now. That's a Morse code paddle. Okay. And then it's got a built-in microphone and speaker. And then on the left side, it's got connections for USB and charging, 2 antenna connectors, and an earphone microphone port. And then it's got these 2 little kind of feet that stick out on the left as well. The idea there being that they'll protect the antenna connectors if you set it down that way or if you drop it or something like that.
Very nice. I was thinking that was a paddle. It looks like a paddle, and I thought, well, that must be why he cut the angle in there. Tell us a little bit about the brains of this thing. What frequencies will it be able to operate on now, and what are you thinking about in the future?
Well, right now it can go up to about 35 megahertz. So we can cover the whole HF band. And I'm pretty happy with that. What I'd like to do eventually is, I left a spot to put a mixer that would let it go up to 2 meters.
Nice.
I'm weighing pros and cons at this point, but I may be able to use a frequency synthesizer that can go all the way up to 200 megahertz. And if that's the case, we get all of HF plus 6 meters plus 2 meters, and then a bunch of extras like the FM broadcast band and the weather bands and things like that.
Okay, I'm going to have one. You sold me on 2 meters. Oh, I don't have a 2 meter single sideband rig. That'd be perfect. I mean, you just cover the whole gamut.
Yeah, it'd be pretty nice. The only reason I hesitate is it would increase cost a little bit, and it would increase power consumption. So I need to make sure I don't give it so many features that it then needs a huge battery and ceases to be portable,
I've had a lot of people in conversation with younger people, the younger folks in the hobby. They're really looking for something that is not their granddad's HF radio. That's not their granddad's radio, period. A lot of guys want open source. They want virtually a smartphone that's really an HF radio.
Yeah.
Is that what we are is that what you're establishing here? Is this a wave of change entering the realm of atmosphere of amateur radio that we haven't seen in quite a while?
That'd be nice. It'd be pretty cool to think that my radio brought, that kind of change about. Someone actually described it as the iPhone of ham radio, which is, I think, pretty high praise. I can definitely relate, although I can see the appeal of vintage gear and stuff like that. It's hard not to notice that cell phones get so much more powerful every single year, and ham radios, the ones that were on sale 5 years ago are still the ones that, are available now. And I think, you mentioned open source too, like, especially ham radio. Ham radio has such a tradition of do it yourself and get in there and see if you can make it better. It really fits well with open source. But so many of the commercial radios, they really have a ton of capability that, some of it, if you just had access to the code and you could change things, you could make these radios a lot more powerful, which is part of the reason that I wanted my radio to be open source so that people could do whatever they want to it, make it better. I'm actually really excited now that there will be some hardware, out in the hands of other users. I want to see what other people can do with it. I want them to make the radio better so I can enjoy the things that they add to it. So
what, not to get ahead of ourselves, but just at that point, what are we looking at when you purchase your product? It comes in a kit form, is that correct?
I made it available I made it available in a few different forms.
Okay.
Most people that backed the Kickstarter were interested in a fully assembled one.
Oh, okay.
And that makes sense because it's really a very difficult board to assemble. Almost all the components are 0603 or smaller, which may not mean anything to most people. They're little tiny chips of a component, and then some of the components even require like a hot air station to install. So it's not something that every person's going to be comfortable building themselves.
Are these products that you're producing for your Kickstarter backers, are they going to be hand manufactured by the creator himself?
A few of them are. I decided to offer a few that will be hand built by me for people that are just really anxious to be the first to have one and to really dig in. In order to make the portable SDR viable, I think it had to be mass produced. Mm-hmm. If I were to hand assemble these, I would have to charge too much for them.
Yeah.
So I have, I think we kind of started talking about it earlier. My day job is in product design and electronics. And so I've, through that, I've made some contacts, and, there happens to be a company here locally that takes designs and they produce it and they place all the components and they solder everything. And they do just exceptional work. So I've been working with them to see if they could produce it for me. And so far things are looking good.
Fantastic. Created and manufactured in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it again, guys. I'm excited. We're making stuff beside toothpaste. We're making portable SDR radios. Michael, for just a moment, stepping back again to the guys on a black box that will do anything they want it to do. Hacking this thing, what in your mind? I'm sure you probably think like we all do when we complete a project. Man, I could have done that differently, or boy, I wish I would have done that left instead of right. What are you already kind of conceiving, if you'll share that with us, some hacks or some ideas to work with this product design you've got?
Oh, well, there's definitely plenty of that. Well, first of all, the thing I talked about where I might be able to get a frequency synthesizer that can hit 200 megahertz. right now the biggest flaw in the PSDR2 is that it doesn't really have the ability to transmit yet, which is something I've had to explain a bunch of times online, but I'm happy to do it again.
Sure.
So with any radio, with any transmitter rather, you've got a lot of stages. So if we're going to transmit voice, you need a microphone, you need a preamplifier for that. In this case, it goes through the microcontroller, which has to process it and generate the output signals. And then you've got, some more filtering, some amplification, things like that. So the portable SDR has all of that, but the last little bit. It doesn't have output filtering, and it doesn't have an output amplifier yet. So this is an area where I don't have a lot of experience designing my own circuitry. So I'm really hoping for community help on this. The PSDR2 has a little socket on the back side of the PCB where you can hook in an amplifier board, but it hasn't been designed yet. So I'm really, really hoping that I can get some help on that and then incorporate that into the, I guess what would be the PSDR3 when I get all that worked out. Right now, for the most part, a lot of it works the way I'd like it to. Certainly I could clean things up and, fix bugs and flaws here and there, but I'm actually fairly happy with it.
Fantastic. I watched your videos again earlier today in preparation for the call, and I'm just really excited about the size of it. I mean, wow, it's we look at a lot of these QRP rigs where guys, we were talking about a minute ago, Soda, IOTA, and DXpedition's taking these really small, solid state rigs up into the hills or down on the coast somewhere, and there, you build them, and there's actually one that an Elmer of mine sent me a link to the other day, and I wish I could remember the name of it now, but it looks like a great little, I think it's like a 40 meter single sideband rig. Anyway, it looks awesome, but it's the size of, I don't know, small ammo can maybe or something. Really small, short, stubby ammo can. This PSD. Get me to say that 4 times in a row, right? PSDR2. I mean, it'll go in your shirt pocket, right? How much does the thing weigh?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've actually weighed it. It doesn't weigh very much. And the size, it actually doesn't look like it, but if you were to take an unopened deck of 3x5 cards, that's about how big it is. And, maybe weighs just a little bit more than that. It's pretty light. It might surprise you to know that I was hoping to get it a lot smaller than that, at least thinner than it currently is, and I still hope I can improve that a little bit as time goes on.
What sort of batteries run inside the unit?
Right now, it's got a 2 amp hour lithium polymer battery.
Okay.
It's good, I think, on receive for about 10 or 12 hours.
Do you have any external battery or power jacks on the outside to power from an external source if you needed that, or does it just have to be charged?
It's got a USB connector on the side that you can use to charge it, but it can run off that if it needs to. Once it's got the ability to transmit, it may not be able to pull enough from the USB to transmit continuously. So you'd maybe have to let the battery charge part way up before you could use it.
I got you. As you're working toward putting the transmit function in there, are you looking for voice first, or are you looking for the paddle first? Which way are you going to work both sides at the same time?
Well, the nice thing with SDR is if I can get a linear amplifier in there, then it can do everything. That does make it a little less efficient and a little harder to design, but I think that's the way I want to go.
Cool. It's a single paddle, right? It's just a single
dual.
It's a dual paddle. Okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't look at the video close enough, I guess. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't really show it off in the video yet. To be quite honest, I can't do code yet. I'm still working on it, which I think is kind of funny that here I am trying to design a radio for people, and I couldn't even use it, even if it worked.
Well,
at least that part of it.
Okay. I know that I have learned the letter K and the letter M, and those are the first two in the it's I don't know if it's Coke or Cock, but it's KOCH, that method. And those are the first two letters you learn. And that's as far as I've gotten. So recently here on the show, we've had some CW folks come in and talk Kilo Bravo 6 November uniform. Dan, who does the no-nonsense study guides, big CW guy, was on. And I sat down, and we'll be releasing soon an episode with the eldest amateur radio operator in my area. He's 95 years old, and he actually taught soldiers CW in World War II. So, I mean, it was cool. I've kind of been inundated with CW, and it's something that I'll just be frank, and people that listen to the show know this. I stayed away from amateur radio for years because of the code. I just didn't want to take the time to learn it. Now that I'm licensed and I have the capacity to use it, I've got 5 kids, and we're doing school, and I'm thinking this is the greatest thing in the world for all 6 of us to learn together. So as we kind of ramp up the next session, we're going to be introducing Morse code teaching to the classroom, and Dad's going to be participating, not just instructing, we're going to be participating as well. And how I sold it to him was, just think, we can talk and nobody else in the house will know what we're saying.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so they're all about spies and stuff, so they're cool. But yeah, hey, I feel you, man. I went to a club auction just a week or two ago, and they had a paddle there, and I almost bought the paddle. And then somebody bid more than I wanted to pay for it, so I just left it alone. But it's like, what was I going to do with it anyway when I got it home? I can't even hear it yet. I'm still like, was that me? Was that my call or what? So I feel you.
I'm the same way.
I feel you. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say kind of the same thing. I had really been scared off by the code test, which is part of the reason I hadn't put more into ham radio back, when I let my first license lapse. But same thing, now that I'm in, I want to learn it. And especially from a builder's perspective, man, it doesn't take anything to make a CW transmitter. I've literally built one out of a single component, not including power. Yeah. So, man, you can do some neat stuff with that.
Well, it hasn't been around as long as it has, and proven its worth so many times over and over and over to not be, to this day, a very viable means of communications.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the portable SDR2. I noticed in your video you mentioned, and we have a subsection of listeners here who really send us a lot of great questions and feedback, who are in the preparedness movement.
Sure.
Do you see any application for your product in that end of things?
Absolutely. Anyone that's played with HF for very long knows that part of the challenge is tuning around and trying to find someone to listen to, or to talk to, rather. And one of the things that the portable SDR has, that a lot of SDRs have, is what's called a waterfall display, where you can see on a real-time graph what's happening on all the channels around you. And I think from a preparedness standpoint, I always imagine like the zombie apocalypse, right? There's only a scattered band of humans out here somewhere, and if you don't find their signal, you're not going to make a connection. Mm-hmm. So that part's important. Of course, the portability and the fact that it's self-contained is helpful. One other thing I put in there is, so there's low-power digital modes, and some of them require really precise timing. So to get precise timing, I included a GPS module. But once I had it in there, I realized that this would be great for being able to report position, which is a thing that they already do. But I don't know that there's any HF rigs out there at all that have a GPS receiver built in. So anyway, what you'd be able to do is, if you were out in the wilderness or stranded from humanity, the portable SDR should be able to grab your position over GPS and automatically transmit that over HF, thousands of miles to whoever it is you're trying to reach.
So when a guy goes up on a summit on the air, not only can he be spotted with the DX spotting or the the soda spotting, he can also be found on APRS.
Yeah.
All over the world.
This, of course, this isn't ready yet, but yeah, it'll have that ability.
That's awesome. I'm just getting into APRS myself, so that's why that's that's some pretty cool stuff, man. Awesome. So what are the things that I have forgotten to ask you about this amazing product that you just got funded on Kickstarter and the crowd's going wild? Before I ask you that question, let me ask you this question. Were you and your wife sitting there watching the countdown timer? I mean, was it like an episode of Jeopardy or what?
Oh, absolutely. We've got a computer right in front of the couch, and we were just sitting there trying to have a conversation. I had actually had family over. And the last few minutes, we couldn't think of anything to talk about. We just hit refresh over and over.
He was like, "Just shut up, everybody. We got to watch this. This is more important than Friends."
You know what's funny though? Even worse was the announcement of the Hackaday Prize. That one they did a live video broadcast, and there were so many viewers that it would stall out, where you couldn't see or hear anything for minutes at a time.
Well, that's like my internet down here all the time.
Well, I feel your pain then. So yeah, that was torture, and that was during my work day too. So pretty much everyone stopped working to try and watch with me. And
so
pretty tense.
It's kind of a community hero kind of a thing you've got going on.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool to know someone that won a big prize or has started something.
Were you in the Christmas parade locally in a convertible waving at people or anything?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. He's made it, folks. He didn't even need your stinking Kickstarter money. He's got it made. He's in the Christmas parade.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about what happens next. Where do you go from here? What's the next step? When will people begin realizing their investment in you?
Well, the short term is it actually takes a little while before Kickstarter releases the funds. So I don't have any money yet, so we'll have to wait for that. The first people that will get their radios are the ones that paid a little bit extra to have the hand-assembled units. Theirs will be ready as soon as I can get parts and I can build them, which may only take a couple of weeks. Wow. What I'm hoping will happen then is I'll get a little bit of feedback from them. Any minor changes that just have to make it into the design. I'll take a month or two to make those changes, and then I'll begin production. Once that happens, depending on some variables and testing that I want to do, it'll take a few more months before the first units will actually come out and be ready to ship. I think I put on Kickstarter that the assembled units, which are the furthest out, would be ready, before November. But I'm hoping to have it quite a bit earlier than that, if at all possible.
That would make a nice Black Friday surprise for someone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I'm really excited for you. As an entrepreneur, as a small businessman, my wife and I have been in business since about 2000. And what's really funny is if you're not an entrepreneur, you can't appreciate someone else's success. It's almost like you hate on people for succeeding if you don't understand how hard it is to succeed.
Yes, I agree with that.
I look at people and I see them succeeding, even in the business that my wife and I are in, and I'm always excited to see someone succeed, and I guess that's what this country was founded upon, was success, and I want to congratulate you for that, Michael. I'm really excited to see this happen for you and your family. I know that we're given opportunities sometimes that we can't even imagine. And then it just kind of manifests themselves in front of you, and then they really scare you because you realize, I might not have been really prepared for this, but that's sometimes the best part is learning how to grow into the position you've been given. So I will be continuing to follow the product here. I know that the guys on ARFCOM are going to be going crazy when they get theirs, and just all over. I probably have to figure out a way to get one now I'll have to figure that out. But until then, I'm going to continue to watch it. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience here? Now, this isn't just, a United States ingested show. So if there's anybody anywhere that may be listening, someone else, another country, we've got folks in Scotland, we've got folks down in Puerto Rico, we've got folks
great.
in Italy, and I see them check in every once in a while as I check my analytics. So if there's anything, that they may be interested in, or that I may have forgotten to ask or something, go ahead and throw that on us now.
Sure. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is you were mentioning, with starting a business and all that stuff, and being thrown into this position that you're not sure you're ready for. That was something I've been really worried about. I mean, I do some of this stuff for my day job, but I've never been the one in charge of all of it. And so there was part of me that was thinking, if this doesn't fund, I'm off the hook. I can relax. But if it does, I knew that it'd be a really good opportunity to grow and to really stretch myself and try something new. So I'm very, very nervous, but I'm excited to see if I'm up to the task and, do my best and learn what I can learn. And then, you mentioned international listeners, and it really, I think the international element is something that's really powerful with amateur radio. More maybe than anyone else, at least before the internet. Ham radio operators were able to get to know people of other countries with, in a way that no one else could at the time, anyway. And it's been really cool to see some of the international attention that the portable SDR has gotten. The other day, I got a ham radio magazine in the mail that I hadn't expected, and opened it up, and it was in German. So I thought, that's interesting, and I thought, I wonder. And so I start flipping through it, and sure enough, there's an article about my radio in this publication that probably thousands of people in Germany are reading. I just found out the other day that there's I don't remember what the name of it is, but the ARRL in the U.S., mm-hmm. It's like the Norwegian equivalent. Their magazine posted an article on the PSDR as well, and it's just been really exciting to me to get a lot of comments from all over the globe that people are excited, and it really crosses over cultural and national boundaries. That, I don't know, it's just a really cool feeling.
Well, I think that as I've mentioned earlier, you've stumbled into something that will possibly lead a charge, and this is Kel's opinion for what it's worth, lead a charge of change as we continue to grow the hobby. Innovation is what got the hobby to where it's at today, and it's going mm-hmm. to take innovation to continue the hobby, whether it's a young man in Salt Lake City building a radio that people only dream of having, or some redneck dude in South Carolina doing a podcast about it. So, we have to do our part, if, like they say, for the hobby. And, some people's part may be the Elmer. Some people's part may mm-hmm. be the VE, giving the test, or teaching the class, or writing the study guides, or, helping someone learn CW, or tune their rigs, or, picking up trash after a ham fest. But sure. I think that it is an international hobby, and it's one that takes a lot of work from a lot of different angles. And we really appreciate what you're doing, Michael, and we appreciate you being on the show.
Well, thank you very much.
Another great episode. It's episode number 20 of the Photime Podcast. Again, I cannot say thank you enough to Michael Colton for coming on with us. Kilo Echo 7, Hotel India Alpha. Congratulations again on the Kickstarter win, and we anticipate with bated breath the progress of the portable SDR. I told Michael that at any time he had anything to announce or wanted to break any news about the product, we would be here to help him get the word out. So if you guys talk to Michael, remind him that the door is always open here at the Photime Podcast. If you order one of his kits, let him know that you might have heard about it here on the Photime Podcast, and appreciate him sharing with us what all was going on in the portable SDR world. Before I go to Main Trading Company, check them out, really, guys. They are phenomenal people and they're offering great gear at tremendous prices. I don't just say that because they're our show sponsor. I buy stuff from these folks. I trust them with my amateur radio needs. Give them a shot. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And before I go, new Twitter followers, let me see if I can get some of these on here. Kilo 0 November Romeo, Mary 1 Mary Romeo Bravo, that's Martin from the ICQ podcast. Thanks, man. Golf 6 Victoria Yankee Sierra, Whiskey Papa 4 Quebec, Zulu 5 6 Whiskey November, Echo 4 1 Mary Tango, Kilo Bravo 9 Yankee Golf Delta, and there's a lot of others. I just couldn't keep up with them all this time. I'm sorry, but we appreciate you following us on Twitter, friending us on Facebook, also liking us over there if you want to. You don't have to be on social media to appreciate what we're doing, because we're bringing it to you every other week right here on the Other Ham Radio podcast. Thank you guys for listening again. Pass it on, share it with your friends. Let's set the world on fire for amateur radio. It's been a lot of fun this time. We'll catch you next time. 73, y'all.
Thanks for downloading, listening, and subscribing to AmateurRadio15.com presents Photime, the Other Ham Radio podcast. You can find our past episodes, web links, and more at AmateurRadio15.com. That's AmateurRadio15.com. Follow us on Twitter at Photime Podcast. And remember to visit our show sponsor, Main Trading Company, at mtcradio.com. Till next time, 73s.